Hello and shalom, brothers and sisters of Messiah Yeshua. Welcome back. I'm Jeremy, and this is Megalithic China, before the flood. So China has many sites that I believe are either pre-flood and megalithic, are very significant. And some of these were not open to the public for the longest time. China has kept a lot of their sites. You either had to be a China resident to go see them, but we've heard about them. And in times past with Google Earth, you could look around and there was pyramidal shaped structures. And again, I don't know if anything's come of those or if they've dug them up to see what they were, or if it was just part of agriculture, the way that they grew things. But you could find some of these things on Google Earth, but you couldn't go visit them. I think now today many are able to go there. But anyway, we're going to take a look at some of these recent finds and megalithic in design. And some of these, like I said, have been kept from the public, just like at the Great Pyramids. The lake that's under there was not known. There was only mystery and hearsay about it until they opened up the Osiris shaft, and then you could go down underneath and see that there's this water down there. So there's still lots of places like that, I believe, around the world. But with technology and everything today and the internet, there's pictures and everything out there that you don't even need to go see these places anymore. But I figured we'd take a look at China, and if you ever want to look at different countries to see what stuff is out there, one of the easiest places is to go to the UNESCO site. You could just type UNESCO and then the name of the country, and it'll pull up a bunch of them. Now, not all of the sites are megalithic and pre-flood, but many of the ones that I've found that are pre-flood megalithic are definitely on the UNESCO World Heritage Site, so go take a look there. Alright, but those of you that haven't been to my channel before, I like to do biblical teachings, and between those I do a site around the world where I believe was pre-flood, because I believe that before there was a flood, there was a megalithic world, a civilization carved in stone, buried and left for us today as evidence that the Bible is true and accurate. So let's get started. And before we start looking at some of these pictures, remember in Genesis 6:5 it says, "And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." And many of you that watch my channel know that I teach very much in depth about mankind being only knowing good at the beginning until they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then their minds were open to both good and evil, and these are spiritual things and spiritual aspects. And so because of the evil in their heart, and we have seen around the world at many of these sites the stuff that they carved in stone, whether it be sexual in nature, violence, different worship of different deities, but it was evil continually, and the thoughts of their heart were only evil, and there was no more love. So the Father allowed the world to be destroyed by water. All right. So first we'll start at the Longming Caves in China. So this is one that is, it's very much just like India and Turkey in the carving of the caves. And when you look at these, how large they are and the bedrock that they carved into, and what happened to all the rubble and debris, where did it go? So we'll look at that a little closer here. So this is the Longming Caves, and you can see the size of it. This picture, I guess, doesn't even really do it justice, but this is very large compared to, like I tell people, with our megalithic site here in America that was modern times at Mount Rushmore is only about 60 feet high, and they left the rubble down at the bottom because of the monumental task of removing it, the cost and the effort. Well, here, this is bigger than that. Again, another site, and where's the rubble? Where's the debris? And not only is it this one area, but just like in India and Turkey, these caves and these structures that are carved out of the bedrock, they go on in each direction quite a ways, and you can see that here a little bit in this picture. And as you move to the left and right, there's even more all around the area. And so very megalithic in nature. And here's another close-up picture. you can see, and we'll see some of the striations and the carving and the cutting is very much the same design and the same way they cut as we see all around the world. And here's just some more pictures of the side. And we'll look at inside of some of these caves, and there's many that are carved out, and there's a lot of detail in there. But again, another thing that we see here is not only is all the debris and rubble gone, but it's unfinished. You'll see spots where they didn't finish carving out with whatever they were doing. Why? Every time you go to one of these places or you look up the reasons, it's always they don't know. There's never any real documentation of how they did it, why they did it. They just look at what's carved in the wall and they come up with the stories. So here's inside of one of the caves. You can see it's kind of hard to see, but the striations are quite like what we've seen before, and you'll see a better picture of that here in a moment. But this looks just like what you would see in India, though the details and the artistry work is different, but the idea and the way of carving is still the same. And like I've said many times before, why? How is it that these people that didn't have cell phones or the internet, how and why are they all carving and doing things very similar in design? And so here's some more pictures that you can see. The paint obviously is modern, but like I've said before, I believe that after the flood, when all the languages were changed, the people scattered around the world, they found these places that were carved in stone. They didn't do it themselves, but they created their religion based off of what they saw found carved in the stone. And then here's some more pictures of the Longmen Caves in China. And you can see how deep in the bedrock they carved all this stuff out. All right, Yangshan Quarry in China. So this is one that obviously is unfinished. It's still there today. They have no idea what it was used for or going to be used for. And you can see the size of it. And there's several places that were being cut out. And some might say that that's natural, but you're going to see here in a minute that it's not. It's cut and designed, and you can see the size of how big it is. That picture up there to the top left with the man on it and the people standing underneath this stone. And you can see the protuberances on the rock to the left, like we see in Peru and Egypt, and we found them all over the world. And now we see them again here in China, and you can see some of the striations on the right there. And then again, more of the striations on these rocks, and what they were carving them out for, we don't know. It's unfinished, and you can still see that some of it is still buried today. And some of those striations again. And if you look closely, you can see how they go. It almost looks like a pattern of going left and right, like a forward slash and a backslash. It looks like that, large forward slash and large backslash. And that's what we see all over. We'll see more of that here in China. All right, now let's go over to the Dazhu rock carvings in China. These have all been painted, and that's modern. But the rock carvings, I do believe the site's pre-flood. And you'll see some of the reasons for that. Again, the striations, the detail in the rock, and nobody really knows how they did it and why they did it. Alright, so as we go through the Dazhu rock carvings, you're going to start seeing some weird, strange things happening. And if you look here, you see this, I think it's a horse head guy up there at the right, and he's holding this man and doing something with him. And just below him, you see another man that is running this, I don't know what that is. It looks like a giant sprocket, but he's crushing a man with it and grinding him up. And then to the left of that, you see another half man, half animal being that is piercing through another man that's tied to a pole. Up at the top left, you'll see some man being cooked in a cauldron. But all of this, when you'll see here in a moment with these pictures, these people are being served up to the individuals sitting at the table on the top, and you'll see dinner plates laid out before them. But it looks like these people are being prepared as a meal for them. And so you can see here the guy in the cauldron, and the gentleman, not so much a gentleman, but whatever that being is with that mallet is about to smash him. And then here is a picture of another one of those beings with a mallet, about to smash the man, and you can see the man on the ground, and it looks like his leg is back behind him, and then there's body parts just laying there in the middle. And so this is carved in stone. And so here you can see a better picture of the man being pierced through, and the people up top with dinner plates in front of them. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the actual carving, or the writing that's on the wall is not original. You can see that they plastered over some of it to be able to add the writing, but that writing was not original. And then here you can see more artwork and painting, but you can see what was carved in the rock that is the original, but again the painting is not. And so just like we see in many places around the world, you have like normal sized people, and then you have giant people, and you see that all through. You also have half man, half animal people, and here in China you have the same thing, half man, half animal, small people, large people, and the person with many arms. And you can see the rock carving here and the striations on the walls. And here you can see the striations so much better, and you can see how they are similar to what we see around the world. But again, normal sized beings, large beings, and just the scenes, the graphic violence on these walls. And here's just another picture of that dinner scenario, but that's just a small part. These caves are actually very, there's a lot of them, and they go on for a long time, like the Kailash Temple in India, and all the caves around the world in India. Again, more violent scenes, and I don't know what, if they have plates up top, those people, or if they're being served, I'm not sure. I have not yet been to this place, but here at Dazu as well, you have where it's carved into the bedrock and the designs that are in there. Very detailed carvings. What they are, who knows? I don't know if that's a calendar there or what that's supposed to be, but it's inside the mouth of some big being. And here again, small people, large people. A bigger scene of small people, large people. And more pictures. And you can see more of the violence. Bottom right corner, I don't know if that guy's about to get his legs cut off or what's happening there. But over to the left you can see that that meal being served like we saw before, but the violence, it's all wrapped in it. So you can see there, those two that are being served are down below, but up top, what's going on with them, I don't know. But again, the person in the middle of the top, very large, and then there's people that are regular sized, and then even small people, and half man, half animal people. Why do they all do this around the world? And here you can see some more of those striations and some of the rock carvings here. And then these two, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the striations again and carved out of the bedrock. And then here's a close-up picture of them, and we'll see these guys again. If you looked close at the Longmen caves, there was a being that looked just like them. So I don't know if it was supposed to be them or not, but close up. And then here's some more. Again, this person, I don't know what's going on there, but he's got two little heads poking out of the side of his head, and they're sitting on these animals. Again, this is painted, but it's carved into the rock, into the bedrock that you can see in the background there. And the paint is modern. All right, so let's go over to some ruins in China. Sang Sidui, I think is how you say that. But at this place in Sang Sidui, it says it's an archaeological site and a major Bronze Age culture in modern Guigan, Sichuan, China. It says largely discovered in 1986 following a preliminary finding in 1927. Archaeologists excavated artifacts that radiocarbon dating placed in the 12th century BC. The site has since been found to contain the ruins of an ancient city made up of the residents, sacrificial pits, and tombs enclosed by dirt walls. And I think they say it's about 12 by 12 kilometers, so it's pretty big. It says the site dates back more than 3,200 years. The discovery of the site pushes back the chronology of human history in Sichuan province from 3,000 years to some 5,000 years. So I don't trust the radiocarbon dating. It's usually wrong when we know the dates, but then they still use it to say when the dates are of things that we don't know the dates for. So I don't trust it, but even their own dating takes this thing back to 3,000 to 5,000 years, which would be pre-flood. So with that, it says that they found more than 1,000 artifacts that were recovered from the number 1, number 2 pits, including numerous bronzeware items. More than 500 artifacts, including gold masks, bronze items, ivory, jade, and textiles, have been unearthed from the pits, which they are 3,200 to 4,000 years. This is just another article. So they found gold, bronze, and ivory and jade in this place. And what you're going to see is these things look like they should be out of Mesoamerica. The way that they look, they're very similar to those. And so why are they finding these types of designs in China? And we're going to see from this place that and there's another site that's almost 400 miles away from this one, still in China, that they found very similar artifacts. So we'll look at some of those. So this is the site, and like I said, it's even bigger in the area. I think they say it's around 12 kilometers, and they've found stuff not just here, but also around the area. And there's a lot going on ancient-wise. That's things that have been buried here in the Xi'an and province of China and other places that we just aren't privy to. All right, so we'll just look at some of these. This was the picture that you saw on the front of the video. Some of the stuff that they dug up. It looks like it was thrown in a pit, similar to the terracotta army that's found in China. Now, I'm still on the fence about that, whether terracotta was actually pre-flood or not. I know many people would get upset that I even mentioned that, but when you look at it, the terracotta army wasn't purposely buried. Something buried it, because many of the terracotta army were knocked over and destroyed, and there was a giant catastrophe there prior to it being buried. But we'll keep that one for later. For now, we'll just stick with this. So many of these things, as you can see, as they're digging them up, not purposefully buried, but something came through and buried them. And most of the time, they're going to say it was just time or a local flood. If it's time, it's not going to have the catastrophe that we see like this, and the sedimentary layers that it puts down. Or if somebody buried it themselves, again, we wouldn't be finding all of these things the way that we do, like a catastrophe of a worldwide flood came through and buried them. And so here's some close-ups of some of the markings and stuff that they've found as they were pulling them out. And now a lot of these things are in the actual museum there, and you can see them, and you can see they're very large in size. They're not just little trinkets. When you look at pictures of them, though, they look small, but they're actually very large. And so this is the same with this one. It looks small here, but it's actually quite big in size. And we'll see some of those. And again, these are all bronze and gold and jade. And you can see this face here. We'll see another one that was bronze, but it's covered in gold. And you'll see these gold leaf also in the museum. So here's some more of these artifacts that were found buried. And again, these are not your normal Chinese-looking instruments from what we know of modern China, but it looks very much like some of the things that we would see in Mesoamerica. And this mask is actually I think it goes up to almost your waist if you were standing next to it and it was on the floor, so it's very big. Same thing with this one. And here's a picture you can see of the gentleman standing next to these, of how big they are, and the gold leaf that once covered them. And what was the gold leaf for? They don't know. Here's some more of the artifacts that they found. And some more. I find this one interesting because it is, again, like a half man, half animal. You can see it has wings, and the front feet are claws with 3 talons and long nails, and then it has back legs, and it has wings like a cherubim. But where did they get these ideas from? And here's another one, and some of these are just this, it looks like a winged dog or something to me, to the right, and then again some more of the gold leaf on these beings. And here's these dogs, or whatever they are, but they have like these noses that look like a horn or something, and they look like some type of an altar with 4 corners on the top. Were they for incense, or what was it for? Again, they don't know. Here's some more of the trinkets. That statue to the left obviously was holding something, and I think that is about 9 to 10 feet tall, somewhere in there, but it's very tall. And here you can see that dog horn guy, almost second from the right. That horn is on top of a man's head like a helmet. And so I very strange, these figurines that they found in here. And so were some of these things weapons? They look like it, but who knows what they were used for. You look to the left, these things that were found and uncovered. I mean, it just makes you wonder why. And this gentleman to the right, whatever he is, there was something that his hands were, that was between his hands, that's no longer there. Maybe a wood door or something, I don't know. But just makes you wonder what is happening and why this type of art. And so here's some more of the stuff that they've found. They've found more recent things, I think in 2022. The thing to the right, I believe, is one of the things they found. But they keep finding new things. Same with all these places around the world. They're buried, they uncover them, and as they dig, they find more. But it's very expensive, it's time consuming, and some of that to them isn't worth it. Are they finding things they don't want to tell us? I don't know. Or is it just a money thing where they stop digging? Because they've stopped digging at places like Göbekli Tepe, at Petra, many of these places that they know there's more out there, but at the cost. And they'll tell you at Petra when you go there that I think that only about 15% of it has been uncovered, and it just costs too much to uncover it, so they stop. I think a few years ago, they found some more stuff beneath the treasury, and they dug that up, but they only dug a small hole just to get down to see what's in there, and that's it. And when you go through Mexico, the same thing. The tour guides in the Yucatan will show you places that are still there, still covered, but they don't have the money or the resources to uncover them. And then Göbekli Tepe, there was 5% of it that's only been pulled up and uncovered, and they have since planted trees and things around it so that they can't even dig it up anymore. So they have no issue with doing that, and no intentions of trying to find out what else is under there. So again, is it money related, or did they find things that they don't want the public to know? I'll leave that up to you. Alright, so here's some more of these pictures and what's going on here, what they're carrying. So these 4 beings are carrying what seems to be, like we just saw here to the left, one of those big dog things. What was it, an actual dog, or was it some sort of a weapon? What are they carrying it for, if you look to the left? So again, have no idea. And here's some more detail, these eyes that are popping out, and horns or a face mask. What it was, don't know. And there's that dog that those people were carrying. So you can see that the people are small, carrying this large dog horn thing. And then if you look to the top of the screen, you'll see a big face mask and another dog horn looking thing, or legs. Again, have no idea what it is. And just another picture of a different angle and the size of some of these things. And then here is, as they have dug it up, a lot of what they found. And you can see there's just a lot. So was this a hole where they threw these things? I don't know. But it's not just here. They've found them sporadically all over the place. And what they were for, nobody knows. Some of them look like, I don't even want to guess, face masks and things like that. But I mean, some of these, if you look at the face mask to the bottom right over there, it's pretty big for a regular size human. And then here's a picture again of that statue of what looks to be a cherubim. All right, so if you go about 400 miles away, or 370 something miles away from that area, you come to Baoji, Shaanxi, China. And I'm butchering these names, but anyway, they found some more bronze things. These ones not as big, but as you can see, they're still very much, what were they put here for? Now this one was, I believe, a tomb, and they did find a body in here, and so these were put in there. But were these things made by them, or were they found by whoever was buried there and they treasured them, because they're found all over China? And I believe they were probably pre-flood, and they too, in times past, would be digging in their yards and find these things, and they would go, hey, they're very valuable, and they would probably sell them like they would today, and people would acquire them. But then there's ones that are still left buried today that the dating takes them back way before the biblical flood. And there's just some more pictures and the designs that are on them. And as you can see, the designs that they put on these are not the normal things that we would see in China-related things that are only a couple of hundred years old. Like I've said many times, they look more Mesoamerica to me. Along with the jade. Mesoamerica was very big on jade, and that you see that all over, and then here in China you see it as well. And then here's some more of the artifacts that they found. And here's some of the inscriptions that they found on it that you saw. Let me go back to the bottom right there. You can see what it says or what it means. I don't know. But I don't believe that that's modern China script. And the same thing, they found some more inscriptions you can see down there on the bottom right. What's funny is that one at the top almost looks like a menorah, but it only has 3 branches on it. But I find it interesting. All right. Last mention we'll do in China. There's, like I said, there's many more, but Leshan, China. We looked at Longmen Caves. This is Leshan, China, and you can look here at some of these pictures. Just the size of this thing, it is huge. Again, where's the rubble? It's very detailed in the carving. Paint is modern. You can see some of the pictures. There's not just one being there. That's the central figure up to the top left, but if you look at some of these other pictures, there's other figures to the right and left of the statue that are unfinished, and that they also look like they have been buried for quite a long time. Like we saw in Egypt with the pyramids, how buried they were, and the weathering that it left behind. And so the pictures to the right and left in the middle there, you can see the weathering that they have versus the weathering of the main figure in the middle. You can see the head, the very top of it, is still very crisp, and it's clean. But from about where his hands are downward, everything starts getting very, looks like it has been buried or up to the water for a very long time. So did they uncover this place as well? Well, when you look at that black and white picture in the middle, it almost looks like they did, like it too was buried for a while. But there's just a better picture of it, so you can see the size of this thing. And then you can see, just like India and Longman Caves and Turkey, there's all these carvings all around it. Now, are all these little niches pre-flood? I don't know. Maybe they found them and they worshipped it, and so they carved their own little hidey hole or house in the side of the rock. But again, very much like we see in India and all over. And then the last one we'll mention is the Longyu Caves in China. You can see there's a lot of carving that took place in here as they pulled some of this stuff out. And what it was used for and where all the debris went, they don't know. But megalithic in size, very hard to cut some of the rocks the way that they did. And again, I haven't been here, so I can't do too much talking about this place, but one of the places I'd like to go see. And here's another picture. Same striations. So Genesis 6:5, it says, "And remember, Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." And in Genesis 7:11, it says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." And so we see from our own maps today, and Google Earth, and all the satellite imagery, that the fountains of the great deep, our earth, is broke, and that the water came gushing up from there and carved out what we have as our continents today. And so the earth is still cracked today, and we can see that crack in those plates that run all around the world. But how would they have known that back when this was written thousands of years ago, that the fountains of the great deep broke? How would they know that we sat on top of plates and that water came pouring out? And the evidence is still there for us today. Well, because I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, and that the book of Jubilees tells us that before the flood that they built houses with stone. And we're also told that they, after the flood, they went and seized themselves cities that were already there. And in Jubilees, it also tells us that the carving on the rocks that they found in these cities was done by the teachings of the Watchers. And they worshiped the sun, moon, and the stars. And the Watchers referring to angels that came down and made themselves physical form when they weren't supposed to. And we'll talk about that becoming physical form in some later teachings that I will be doing coming up pretty soon. So the evidence is there that there are all these places that were carved in stone, cities built with stone, that they found after the flood, after the languages were changed. And it says that even at the Tower of Babel, they didn't build with stone, they built with brick. They built brick instead of stone. And same thing when the children of Israel were in Egypt, they didn't build with stone, they baked brick with mud and straw. So the stone work was done prior to the flood. And then in Genesis 11:3, like I said, it says that they made brick for stone. And in Exodus 5:7, it says that they made straw, brick with straw. And I've showed pictures of that before in the past, that it's still there in Egypt today. You can see the mud brick made on top of megalithic brick, that the megalithic brick was pre-flood. And also in Enoch, it says that the mysteries, the knowledge that the Watchers had, that the angels had, they had not yet been given the good mysteries, the good knowledge from God. And then they shared it with mankind, which they weren't supposed to do. And it created a world that was evil only continually. And it was wiped out by a worldwide flood. So I think next time we will go probably to Petra, and we'll look at some of this. If you look real closely at this, it is what they call a tomb that is still buried in Petra all the way up to the door frame. I'll show you some that are half uncovered, but like I said, only 15% of Petra has been dug up, and you can tell as you look at this that this tomb was buried back again, not by blowing dust, but by a lot of debris that could only have been laid down by a worldwide flood that buried it. And we'll look at some of these because they're high up in the mountain, almost 1,000 feet up in the mountain, where they will tell you that a local flood caused this, but a local flood cannot get 1,000 feet up in the mountain to bury some of the tombs and holes that are up there. All right, in 2 Peter, though, it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. And so that's what we say, right? We think our atmosphere was always the same, that everything, carbon dating takes us back. The thing is we know the atmosphere was different at one time, but they hide from it. They don't tell you that because that would mess up their dating, because their dating methods would only work if our atmosphere and things always worked the same that they always have, but they don't. It goes on to say, for this they willingly are ignorant, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. So he's saying that they're going to deny that the flood ever happened. And they're willingly ignorant because the evidence is all over. And Peter goes on to say, but the heavens and earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So turn from darkness to light. And we see here that where those cracks are, where that water came pouring out, is where the most of our volcanoes around the world are located at today. And they call it the Ring of Fire. And here's another picture that shows a map of all the volcanoes around the world and where they're located. And you can see they're located in all these places where the fountains of the Great Deep broke open. All right, well, if you are tracking with my channel, then you know that I teach that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, like the Bible says. And we're waiting for the creation of the new heavens and the new earth. But from those 2 points, we have an in-between, and that in-between, God laid out the 7 days of creation, literally created everything in 7 days as a picture of the 7,000-year period of man. Each day is a shadow, a picture of that 1,000-year period. In day 1, God created said, let there be light, and he separated the light from the darkness. In the first 1,000 years is when Adam and Eve only knew good, only knew light. But when they ate from the tree of knowledge, good and evil, their minds were now open to good and evil, or light and darkness. Day 2 is when he separated the waters above from the waters below and put the firmament in the heavens. And on the millennial day 2 is when the flood happened, and all the water came back down, and then it had to go back up, evaporated up into the heavens, only not all of it this time. Anyway, go through and watch all these in my Millennial Day series teachings that go through all these and talk about them in detail and show you where in the Bible it talks about all of them. And the first age was the first 2,000 years of creation, chaos, and the flood. The second age was the physical age of the letter of the law, and they didn't receive the Spirit because Israel received it without faith. Not the whole nation, though we see, Abraham received the Spirit. He saw things. Elijah, many of the prophets. And then when Yeshua came, he came as the Lamb of God, the suffering servant, to die and pay the penalty for our sins so we could enter back into eternity. And then it says that he will go and return to his place till we acknowledge our offense and seek his face. It says, in their affliction they will seek me early, and come, let us return unto him, for he has torn us, and he will heal us. He has smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days he will revive us, and the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. We're waiting for our brother Judah to also repent. It's in the story of Joseph, when they throw Joseph, their brother, into the pit, He's sold into slavery. He becomes a Gentile, second only to the Pharaoh, and he doesn't reveal himself to his brothers until Judah repents. And we see that same story in Yeshua. He was thrown into the pit, he was killed, and he went down into the grave, and he rose again the third day. He ascended up to the Father, the right hand of the Father, and he has looked, Yeshua has looked like a Gentile to our brother Judah for the longest time. And he's second only to the Father. And when they come, and it says, Yeshua tells them, he says that you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Because they denied him as the Messiah. He is their Messiah. And when they acknowledge that in the whole Judah, that will be the days that he returns. And that will be after 2,000 years. And we are closely coming upon that. We have been 2,000 years since his death, burial, and resurrection, and we are waiting for his return. And we are in the 6th day, waiting for the 7th day when he will rule and reign as the master of the Sabbath for 1,000 years, the master of the 7th day, his holy day. It says, and Moses went down from the mountain and unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And they said unto the people, be ready against the 3rd day, come not at your wives. Just as we see Yeshua, he came down and washed us with his blood. As he told Peter, you've been made clean, you only need to wash your feet. So we're waiting to put on our clothes, but we have been washed. We're waiting to put on our new garment, that eternal garment, that eternal body when Yeshua returns. And we're supposed to be ready for the 3rd day. So 2 days he was going to be gone, and on the 3rd day it says he will raise us up. The 3rd day is the 7th day of the week, but it's the 3rd day from when he came. Because he came in day 4, the end of the 4th millennium, and he's been gone for the 5th millennium and the 6th millennium, and he'll return for the 7th millennium to rule and reign as master of the Sabbath. And in Numbers it also says, and the clean person, Yeshua was the clean person, shall sprinkle upon the unclean person on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall purify himself and wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at evening. So we see that the 3rd day is also the 7th day. But Yeshua also, the Word of God came down at Mount Sinai in the 3rd millennium for Israel. But they didn't receive it with faith. So Moses veiled his face, and they could not see the glory of God, which was Yeshua. In Esther 5:1 it says, and upon the 3rd day she had ended her prayers, and she laid away her mourning garments and put on her glorious apparel. And that's what we're waiting to do on the 3rd day, is to put away our mourning garment, our mortal flesh, and put on our eternal garment, our new body that will live forever. In Psalms it says that you have said unto my Lord, speaking of Yeshua, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Yeshua ascended up to the Father. He's at his right hand, waiting till Hasatan is made his footstool cast to the earth, because the earth is the footstool. It says, whom the heaven must receive until the times of restitution of all things which God hath spoken by the mouth of his holy prophets since the world began. So we're waiting to restore all things, and the last thing that we need to restore back is Judah, our brother. And then Messiah will rule and reign for 1,000 years. And it says, after the 1,000 years, then comes the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and authority and power, for he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. But it tells us that he has not yet put all things under his feet. It goes on at the very end to say, but now we see not yet all things put under him, but they will be. Just as David was anointed king, he had to wait until King Saul was taken out of the way before he began to rule and reign. Yeshua was anointed when he came, but he sat at the right hand of the Father now until Hasatan is taken out of the way. And we see that happen at the start of the millennial reign. It says, and the death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So this takes place after the 1,000-year reign, when death and hell are cast into the lake of fire, and then the kingdom is turned back over to the Father, and we go back to everything and everyone being eternal from the beginning. That's how it was. And this 7-day period that we're in, or the 7,000-year period, is time for mortal existence, and we're here to choose life or death, light or darkness, because knowing good and evil, light and darkness, produces death. And God is the God of the living, he is not God of the dead. And we cannot enter into New Jerusalem, into the kingdom, until we put on that eternal body, because you cannot mix eternal with mortal. And then on the 8th day, it'll be a new heaven and a new earth, and we'll have eternal life. There will be no more darkness, no night, no evil, no pain, no tears, no sorrow, no war, no death, no sin, no knowledge of evil, no sea, and no Satan. It'll be his will. We will be good and perfect for eternity. So with that said, Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Shalom, brothers and sisters.